Okay, we'll start the Building Zoning Development Committee meeting on the 13th of May at 7 o'clock PM. Present are committee members Limpert, Shimsky, and Gilchrist. The rest of council, Recreation Director, HR Director, Safety Director, Economic Development Director, the mayor, and guests. On the agenda are two things. 2025-17, which is the 2025 comprehensive plan, and ordinance 2025-21, which is the mall area mixed-use overlay. These are the follow-up meetings on both of these as they've been discussed before. Where we left off, starting with 2025-17, we had reviewed through chapter 6, and we were now doing, am I right there, 6? We're doing 7 through 9 now. The goal of this was just to kind of outline a more detailed representation of what was short-term and what costs might be around that. So I met with the Economic Development Director to try to review that and provide more clarity to the committee. And so starting off with 7.2, we didn't have a cost estimate for that. Mr. Upton, was there any additional? I think we were waiting on.
So you're talking about
This was the safety item. So
adequate funding.
Yeah, adequate funding, additional training programs, equipment and services. I think the question was, what will we expect for like additional training? Is there a dollar value around that? And I don't know if you had that, you weren't in, Ms. Schofield, we weren't able to ask you in the discussion.
So this is, Mr. Chairman, are you talking?
7.2A, which is
7.2A.
the additional training programs, equipment and services.
And I think the question there was, is there anything that
Would be additional budget from what we were expecting for
is not accounted for already in the current appropriations? And I think Director Schofield and I debriefed on that. As it relates to training, this is feedback from the public as to continue to provide cutting edge training to meet the demands of safety moving forward.
Correct. I would add, Mr. Chair, that, we account in the current budget, as you know, that you reviewed in the beginning of March, we have training and equipment in there. We have, funding for 49 officers this year. So I think, we're accounting for what they requested and what they asked for. We got them one drone. Would they have liked 3? Sure. But I think we're covering all of the basic tools that they need and the advanced technology that they need right now.
Okay, great. So we don't have a dollar allocation for that outside of what I like to call business as usual, or what the current budget.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Okay, so no change there. 7.2B was creative partnerships, new grants. These were unknown at this time, and Ms. Schofield, I don't think you have any on queue that you were aware of that were upcoming short term, but this would be something that if it did come up, I think the mindset of this goal would be looking for things that are 80-20 or better as far as grant opportunities, and it wouldn't be like 50-50 or something that would, some of that's dollar related, maybe it's a small dollar item, but anything that was large would probably be one of those where it's a significant county or state provision versus our spend on those, right?
Correct. First look is always no required match. And then usually if there is a local match required, it's between 20 and 25% on average is what you'll see.
So there's no dollar value there, but that would be something that may come up as part of the plan, as grants arise, and those are going to be discussed. 7.3, which create a series of centralized public information center kiosks. This was moved to midterm because there really isn't a plan right now to implement kiosks as part of the short-term execution. There's a lot of other priorities on the plate that push this one out to midterm. Any other comments on that, Mr. Upton?
No, I'm just squinting to look at my paper that I couldn't get to print the right way.
Okay, and then, I mean, this is just more semantic, but, on the 7.3B for the description, I just had it say, instead of a new website, the new website upgrade, because it was already in place of like a website upgrade, so instead of a, it's the, and then again, anything else would just be sort of BAU management of that website, and that's short term. Going to 8, that's it for 7. Any questions on 7? Committee, council? 8, we, these were 8.1A and 8.1B. Those are just going through normal plan design functions, so no spend expected there. Still short mid for both of those, and 8.1C, there was no change. So no change in 8.1, or no spend. 8.2, this is the Lorraine Road, so I didn't put down the dollar value here, Mr. Upton, but it's basically the Lorraine Road paving project is what you.
Correct. That's the continued implementation of the Lorraine Corridor Plan that we were, as we discussed, last year, we're biting off in phases, and I think we developed a good framework for how we're gonna make decisions on Lorraine Road moving forward.
And 8.2B, streetscape maintenance, again, that's goes along with sort of the Lorraine Corridor Plan and just opportunity, planning and design as it arises, so no additional spend related to that. Then 8.2C, this is improve Lorraine Road and Columbia Road intersection for safety in anticipation of the new elementary school. And this is discussing a short-term goal of re-engineering the Lorraine Columbia Road intersection.
This is the big one.
Yeah, and this one.
This is the big one.
I'm just gonna turn it over to you to talk on that.
So in the short term, we are continuing to try to ascertain costs. We have a preliminary engineering estimate. It's right around $7.5 million, and that is for the infrastructure piece. That is not for the acquisition and demolition of the pieces that we would need to obtain and demolish in order to correct that intersection. We did have very productive meetings with both Senator Moreno and Representative Miller. Both of them have included that as the project that they're putting forward in their earmarked requests. And we're going to continue to kind of chip away at this. But I think the bottom line number, top line number, whichever way the accountants will look at it, is probably between $9 and $10 million, and that's something that we would look not as a cash, but as some blend of what we can't obtain in grant funding using layers of either the Lorraine Road TIF, the permanent and the general obligation notes and bonds of the city in some combination thereof.
So, I mean, I think this is the one that I think, I'll go on record as saying that, this is gonna be highly sensitive to what the total value is, so when somebody comes around and said it was in the comprehensive plan, I'd make sure that's on the record, that that's very price specific of what kind of funding and where it comes from. And how
I think we're aligned in that matter, Mr. Chairman. If it comes back as a $20 million project, it's just gonna be a dream, it's not gonna be a reality. But until we can give you a sober, clear-eyed view of what it's actually gonna cost.
So that's labeled as short. Any other questions or comments from council or committee on that one? 8.2D, that would be no additional spend. That's in standard operations. 8.2E, implement a Dig One strategy for infrastructure improvements using the 5-year capital plan. So this would be around the Clake Road project, and what was the other one? Pull forward Dover Road, right?
Yes, and then what we're doing is we are already kind of implementing this, where we're layering the subsurface infrastructure projects that we expect to have over the next 5 years versus the roads that we expect to pave. And to the extent that we can align those two, so we open a road up, do the underground infrastructure, finish the road, and then we don't touch it again for 20 years. I think the mayor's opinion, and I share it, is that nothing makes us look like knuckleheads more than tearing up a road we just did because we didn't plan for the water or the sewer or stuff like that to happen.
So this way, I mean, with the initial, just kind of like I think you put a 1.2 million.
That was the Clague Road project, and so what we did is we pulled forward the subsurface, the force main, and that was actually funded through an earmark from Congressman Miller, where 80% of that was cost was from the federal government.
Okay, and again, this was a pull forward. Okay, that was it for 8.2. 8.3 was 5G stuff. And I didn't have any spend on this, right? This is all just part of standard projects. The same 8.3 was going through normal committees, planning, zoning, etc. 8.3, sanitary sewer and stormwater, the spruce project and Brook Park, which we've talked about before, but those would be related to that short term. Any questions in 8.3 or 8.2? Okay. 8.4, encouraging additional electric vehicle charging stations. That one, help me out there, did we move this out?
I don't have anything in my notes, Mr. Chairman.
Because it says Great Northern Mall, library, school, city hall, police station, record. I think we left, I think you left this, we'd agreed to leave this short term, but there was no
There's no spend.
immediate spend, or there was no, initially implementation plan around adding these charging stations.
I think a lot of it's driven by the federal policy where the previous administration.
You're gonna monitor.
A lot of funding
Yeah.
to build out a network of EV charging stations, and
Yeah.
we don't know if that's gonna continue or not.
That will be based on federal and state strategy and policy, et cetera.
We're not proposing that the city expend any funds building that network out, it's just capitalizing on the opportunities should they present themselves.
Okay, question, go ahead, Mr. Scarrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Upton, the one that's put in over here, the EV station, when's that gonna be up and running? Was that
This summer.
funded?
That is 100% funded by NOACA, and we were awarded one more that is 100% funded by NOACA. The rub in lies with First Energy actually energizing the charger. So there's the building it, and then there's the energizing it piece.
Going into 9, Parks, Rec, and Natural Open Spaces goals. So there was gonna be a capital needs assessment for city-owned parks and facilities, rec center, upgrades, et cetera. Mr. Upton, you said that there may be an R.E. Warner initiative here to
I will,
assessment.
Mr. Chair, if I may defer to our rec director, but we do have an aquatic study that is under review and a lot of other things that he's working on that I'm unaware of.
Mr. Chair, we actually have commissioned R.E. Warner to do a study currently. The kickoff is on May 21st of this month, and they're going to do an intensive study of our rec center aquatic facilities, the do's and don'ts, to what we can do, what's wrong with it, what we can do better, where we go in the future, just for the aquatics piece alone.
Okay. Do you have an estimate of what we're talking about here?
$74,000.
Okay, committee or council. 9.1B, there was no spend associated. 9.1C was, again, update all parks and recs to become barrier free. This is just part of the city park plan, right, Mr. Pinchek? Anything else you wanted to say on that one? All right. Any questions from committee or council? 9.2, that was the upgrades existing facilities, that's the current park plan. The only change I had here, Mr. Pinchek and Mr. Upton and I talked about this. They incorporate new water amenities, new pool, splash pads. Like, to me, that sounded like it should be a bullet in 9.2B, which is build new recreational facilities to meet trends versus being an upgrading. So that was,
Makes sense.
so that I would move that bullet go down into 9.2B. Ms. Heeman, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you leave it in both places for the moment, because, you know, perhaps there might want to be something added to one of the parks, or, you know, rather than at just the main facility, right? So that would be a separate.
I'm fine with that too. If there's something already in the planning, that's fine. Okay, and then 9.2B, it's what I just said, I like pickleball should maybe be called out in that bullet. 9.2C, develop varied programming with consistent schedules of different ages and abilities. That's programming, no expected cost. Any questions on 9.2? Okay. 9.3, we changed 9.3B from short-term to midterm, based on capacity and, you know, current plans around those locations, the bike path or the house and whatnot. 10.1, that was non-expenditures for 10.1A. 10.1B, unique art in the streetscapes, that would be grant related to projects, so there's no current spend expectations on those, but there could be potential grants for projects for art. 10.1C, non-expenditure on the farmer's market, and 10.1D would be through partnerships, so there wasn't really an expected spend around those relationships with RFPE, NLCS, and AC. So no spend there besides for grants come up for art. Any questions? Okay. We're getting close to end here, guys. 10.2A would be handled just through legislation. No expenditures expected for 10.2B. Fund efforts for art programs through 1% for the arts. So this one, Ms. Swift, I know you and I have maybe some philosophical differences on this one, but could you just explain, there was no current spend, it's a 1% spend on a project, right?
Yeah, so there's no current spend right now, but the 1% for the arts is a movement. It's typically, when you take a public infrastructure project and you take 1% of the cost of that project and you dedicate that to placemaking, public art, and things that make it, you know, visually appealing and interesting. And so there's a movement nationally around creating 1% for the arts. I think if you look for what might be an example, it's the project that we're kind of biting off in small phases, which is the Brook Park underpass, where we have the guardrails, the new sidewalks, and then the medians being done, and then the last phase is the public art on the stanchions, which we're still kind of getting through the ODOT process of being allowed to even do that. But that would be an example of what that might look like.
So there's no spend of that, but you could picture 1% of Lorraine Road project, and that's maybe where we'd, you know, start to look at how big is the project versus what's 1% for a $10 million project versus a $100,000 project. So anyway, right now there's no cost, but that would be a 1% related to those. 10.2D, no change. 10.2E, no change. 10.3A, we went from short to mid to long term. This was related to preserve and enhance structure, sites, and oral history. And this was mostly because there wasn't really a current execution around the historic sites currently planned. And then 10.3B and 10.3C, those were non-expenditure. 10.4A, moved just the midterm, which was to create a new logo and tagline, because I don't think we were standing up any initiative for a logo change here right now, but that was something that's,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah, not in the near term. And then 10.4B, that was also moved to mid to long term, which is implementing a comprehensive wayfinding system, which I think is again something that's aspirational, but also just whenever the trends and funding would allow us to pursue that. And that's it. Questions from council or committee? Everybody feel a little more comfortable? What did, I didn't come up with a total spend amount for 7 through 10.
I can look through the comments that we have in the PDF.
It was over like $12 million because of the Lorraine Road, Columbia, and then also the 1.2 around,
You're talking the two biggest items right now in the immediate short term are Lorraine and Columbia and the preservation of Old Town Hall.
that's it.
Uh,
Yeah, that's really the
biggest
big
ticket
dollar
items.
items, yeah.
There's a lot of operational changes, as you would say, Mr. Chairman, some business as usual changes, kind of change in the way we do business on some things.
Yeah, and the 1.2 was a pull forward, the Lower Clegg Road.
Well, that's money that we've already spent,
Yeah.
that was through a federal grant.
Right.
But I think that's right about the same amount of money on Old Town Hall, but
Yeah.
the two biggest ticket items in the immediate short term, Old Town Hall and then kind of realigning Lorraine Road in Columbia, so it's not as dangerous of an intersection.
If there's no other questions from council or committee, I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of 2025-17. All council, ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next on the agenda was 2025-21, which is ordinance establishing the chapter 1150 of the Planning and Zoning Code for City of North Olmsted Title Mall Area Mixed Use Overlay District. So we discussed this with the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission last meeting. I think we had a couple questions just in general about what do you do with parking? What do you do when people park in other, due to reduced spaces, potentially park in other businesses, parking spaces? I don't think we really got a good answer for that, but it also sounded like it was just sort of a conundrum with these types of projects, right? You're taking away parking.
Correct, I mean, the new mixed-use overlay district calls for shared parking as opposed to doing, each development of its own. The kind of the antiquated way of thinking is, I need 5 parking spaces for every 1,000 feet of retail, so you could think on a 1.2 million square foot mall site, what's that divided by 1,000 and then multiplying that by 5, and that's where you come up with the amount of parking we have. I think, Mr. Chairman, we used to design parking structures for Black Friday, and that's how much parking we would provide. Well, I went to Great Northern Mall on Black Friday, and we have twice the amount of parking that we actually need, like now. And so this modernizes parking requirements. It also modernizes how we look at lots, right? So how you look up and subdivide a 3-acre piece of land into multiple developable parcels, and how you look at those in the whole as opposed to in the narrow. I think, the best way that I can characterize it is that this is an imperative. I think we all we've seen the movie play across the country with what's going on with malls. I don't think that, I think that some malls will survive, most will not. And I think the cities that are moving in a proactive fashion to create the frameworks to allow for malls to be redeveloped are the ones that are actually going to win the investment of what the future looks like for malls. And so, the mall, like I said, this is for it to be sustainable over the long term. And then it comes to the question of what happens if Dillard's is sold and someone just wants to operate that box at 200,000 feet and they just want to be a big box. Well, A, that just doesn't happen anymore. People aren't leasing 200,000 square feet. B, if it is, what you're getting is a discount tenant, right? They're probably paying 30 to 80 cents a foot on long-term leases, and they end up becoming more of a pain in the butt to get out of the building to facilitate the demolition and reconstruction of the building than would otherwise be possible. And so our argument is that these 250,000 square foot retail department stores are going the way of the dodo bird. And our policy into the future needs to provide for economically feasible redevelopment, which is what this does. As it relates to ADA and on-street parking, still allowed. As it relates to, it doesn't usurp any provision of any existing city law, including the charter. And really this is really about positioning ourselves to win the investment of the future and not chase the ghosts of the past.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I know this is, like, we just chewed through the comp plan,
Yeah.
and you probably want to let this one marinate for another
Yeah, I
meeting
mean,
before we come back. I'm fully aware of that.
Yeah, I think we're digesting this in small bites here because it is a significant policy approach change to the overlay of the way the mall is today. I think everybody acknowledges that we need to think differently and make sure that we got the capability to address whatever comes our way with the mall.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also there's just a lot of the way things were and the way things might be to think about, and are we accounting for everything the right way? I think the overlay gives you a little bit more flexibility to try to do that. But I think we just need to get a little bit more comfortable with it, at least I do. I don't know about the rest of the committee. Any questions from committee, comments? Questions or comments from council? Go ahead, Ms. Heeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to clarify, my question about parking wasn't that we needed as much parking as we have. It was how did we assist really a premier tenant, for example, like these several spaces are for, this entity only, right? To discourage. Granted, you can't stop that, but you could have signage or you could have something to assist so that patrons of a particular business that has really, spent more money on their space and they want, that restaurant and they've got their, what you see over at Crocker Park really is you see people that actually work at Crocker Park parking in these spaces right outside of the front doors of a restaurant, right? And then there's nowhere for the patrons to park. So inside their parking garages, of course, they have different signage, for parking for those specific businesses that are the financial advisory firms and those other office type tenants. So I would only suggest, that was really what I was suggesting, to somehow at least assist those businesses, for their perimeter or base parking, their prime parking spots.
I believe the example you said was Bonefish Grill. Is that correct? The example you cited was Bonefish Grill. And I think that would be incumbent upon the developer to try and work that out within the leases. But I agree that I'm guilty of when I want to get a T-shirt at CLE, I target Bonefish Grill too. So.
Yeah, I think, and then the other challenge always is with special assisted spots, handicap spots, et cetera.
And part of the requirements here is to present a parking plan. That's something that's new that we don't have in any other P. Because part of what we're doing is taking parking minimums, which they have no basis in rational thought. In my personal opinion, this is just me, as a practitioner doing this across different markets in different asset types, and saying, show us why you need. So the Texas Roadhouse is a great example. I push back, why do you need 200 parking spots? Is the cinnamon butter really that good? right?
Yes.
Kind of
It
is.
It is. It's essentially what they told us. They said, we have X number of tabletops, we're on a wait Y number of hours, so many days a week, so yes, this is why we need this. Okay, sounds good. But just to say we need it because we might get on an hour and a half wait once every 4 months, not so good, right? And so I think that was one of those examples. And so this is, tell us why you do or don't, and then it also restricts the amount of parking, the maximum, to 125% of what's already allowable. So we just want people to think critically about their parking needs. Jared's is another example where they make fine jewelry, right? Even on Black Friday, they probably have a dozen spots full, but our
Yeah.
current zoning code requires them to have, I think, 30. And if you look at it, Mr. Chairman, through the lens of a developer and the amount of money it costs to provide that extra 20 parking spots, versus how we could have another building employing more people, that's where you really start to see the return on investment in making land more productive from a pure economics perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. I mean, I think what we always just have to keep in mind is that there's also law requirements on certain ADA parking
Oh,
or things like that.
this doesn't usurp any of that.
And we have to keep those in mind, that when we start reducing spaces, and if there's so much percentage that's that, then you still gotta make sure you have enough, because other people can't park in those spots, things like that.
Yeah.
Which sounds like you're thinking about it, and then that's good, and there's certainly good valid areas where this could, and I think you brought up a really good example of where there's too much parking versus what could be used there versus some other areas. But I think we're getting pretty good progress here to digest this. And my preference would be to hold this in committee for 2 more weeks here till the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Make sure
may,
we got any feedback, yeah.
if any members of council have any questions, please feel free. I think this is, like, as you said, this is a big consequential piece of legislation, almost as much so as the comprehensive plan itself. So please reach out to me, and happy to meet and speak with you.
Okay. Any other questions from council committee? I like big motion to hold this in committee, or I should say hold ordinance 2025-21 in committee, and ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed 3-0, and I will conclude closed zone development at 7:34 PM.
All right, I would like to, 7:33. I would like to call the Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings Committee meeting to order at 7:34 PM. Present are committee members Heenan, Limbert, and Scarl, Council President Broussard, all of council, the mayor, the Human Resource Director, Economic Development Director, Safety Service Recreation Directors, and the Special Assistant to the Mayor. First on the agenda is 2025-46, an ordinance amending and restating Section 957.01 of Chapter 957, parentheses, alcoholic beverages on public grounds, parentheses, of the codified ordinances of the City of North Olmsted in order to permit alcoholic beverages to be sold and consumed at the Saturday in the Park concert series at Barton Bradley Park and declaring an emergency. Director Pinchuk, is that yours, or Mayor?
No, Director Pinchuk is ready to talk about his concert series.
Thank
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Madam Chair. As you mentioned, this is a revision to the ordinance that's already there to allow us to sell alcohol at Barton Bradley Park due to construction concerns. We can't have all our concerts at North Olmsted Park this summer. We actually, in fact, just as of this week, we canceled one of those. It was the country concert that's in July, because during that time period, the parking lot at Barton Bradley will be under construction, and it interferes with the beginning of the proposed phase 2 for the park. So we will have one concert at Barton Bradley that will be in August. That will be, I think it's Billy Lake Soda concert. That's, and then, the first concert will be June 7th at North Olmsted Park. It is the Jam Machine. And then the second one is 2 weeks later, right when the bids are being opened for North Umstead Park, and that is Pet the Cougar. So we would like to, as we move forward, have that ability to use Barton Bradley for events in the future as well.
I have a question. So this is, yeah, okay. I don't have a question. So this is actually just adding.
Just adding Barton Bradley as a site.
Adding Barton Bradley to the already created
Correct.
pieces of legislation, because we did not do them all at one time for some of the folks that worked with us in those years. And then the only one that would not, we don't have something would be Little Clay.
That's correct.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. Okay, I don't have any questions about this, Mr. Limpert.
Yeah, just, as part of the legislation, when you create the area, are there guidelines, I can't recall, as part of the detailed legislation of like how far from
It's,
neighboring properties is the alcohol
the
permitted?
state requires you to submit a outline of a map regarding that it has to be enclosed by fences and the whole bit, so far away from houses. And we've already done that, so it's already been approved. But to your point, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to clarify that, so it's not like there'll be, because there's no fencing at Barton Bradley in the back part of the fields, but that's not part of where this event's being held, and
Right.
it sounds like there's state guidelines that would prevent that from being an available area.
So if you look at Barton Bradley, there's a fence that goes through the middle of the park. That's gonna be the back part of the area that people will be able to congregate in. And then we'll enclose the two sides with snow fencing, and you already have the fence going across. But if the mayor wants to do happy hour at her house, we can always have people walk over their backyards.
Pending any ethics violations that will, Ms. Leslie or Director, to your point, Councilman, through the chairwoman, if you recall, when we have the concerts at the park, at our community park, there actually is like a staked out area where people who are buying and then consuming the alcohol have to stay, very similar to, also to homecoming, and when the VFW hosts a beer tent. So it'd be exactly the same thing at Barton Bradley, to your point, away from the residential streets, except those coming to my house.
If I could add, Mayor, it's a requirement, it's a requirement for the state, to get your permit, that you have to show those dimensions and outlines and stuff.
Yep, no further questions. Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Any other questions from council? Mr. Miller, you look like you have a question.
No,
All right. I'd like to make a motion to recommend all of the 2025-46 to all of council and ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Passes 3-0. Next, we have 2025-47. And that is a resolution authorizing the Director of Recreation, Public Engagement to advertise for bids for the award of a contract for the Springville Ballroom driveway installation and improvements project, as detailed in specifications on file with the city engineer, and authorizing the mayor following approval by the Board of Control to enter into a contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder. Again, Mayor is the director. Okay, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was discussed in our budget meetings as well. This is in the budget for capital improvements for Springvale. This will allow us to reinvent the grand entrance to the ballroom, as well as create a drop-off drive for residents or community members or patrons that are using the facility to be dropped off right at the front entrance, as well as for our delivery trucks to be able to access and exit more cleaner on that side of the building. So this was, the engineer's estimate is $94,000 for this project.
All right, and the delivery trucks, just for the record, the way that they are now is where that they're gonna be is really when you're looking at the building face on, that it would be on the right. And then how do we expect that might be separated? Is there a visual barrier, is there?
That's to be worked out in the details, but as you enter, at least the initial plan is as you enter the right-hand side, You drive through, you pass, the green awning will be gone. We'll create a new entrance there. They can drop off at the front or pass on until the delivery to the other side and then exit out on Canterbury, yeah.
Okay.
And if I may, Madam Chair, this was part of one of the phases for Springvale years and years and years ago, and we're just implementing it now, so.
Are you using, Director, the same drawing or
It's a
you?
revised drawing
A
from the
revised,
original,
okay.
yes.
I seem to recall that the entryway looked like the Academy Awards stations. My memory is correct.
I don't think that's in the budget this year.
Thank you so much, 'cause I wasn't exactly a fan. All right, questions from committee?
It wasn't that many years ago.
I actually still have the plans.
Still
so
have the
you're
plans,
ready.
the memories, yeah. All right, no questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Questions from council? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to recommend 2025-47 to all council and ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes 3-0, and I'll conclude my meeting at 7:41 PM. Thank you.
I would like to begin the Streets and Transportation Committee meeting at 7:41 PM. Webinar, Olive Committee, Gilchrist, Newman and Madden, Olive Council, the mayor, the HR director, economic director, safety director, service director, rec director, assistant to the mayor and guests. The purpose of this evening's meeting is to discuss Resolution 2025-45 and Resolution 2025-48. Let's start with Resolution 2025-45, a resolution authorizing the Director of Economic and Community Development to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide construction services for the partial removal of Stearns Road noise barrier as detailed in the specifications on file with the Division of Engineering, and authorizing the mayor, following approval of the Board of Control, to contract for the same at lowest and best bidder. Director Upton, would you like to lead the discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is the required legislation for us to go out to bid to remove a small portion of the noise barrier at Stearns Road to facilitate the redevelopment of the forest property. This is crucial as we will begin the infrastructure this summer, and this will be the construction entrance for the duration of the forest redevelopment project, and so required piece of legislation that allows us to go out to bid.
Okay. Do you know when they plan on removing that barrier?
So this is a 3 reads in 30 days, so we'll go out to bid as soon as we get the legislative approval and hopefully do it June, July-ish, so that we can, developer has expressed they want to have all of the infrastructure of streets poured before the weather turns
Okay.
this year.
Okay. Any questions from committee? Yes,
Well, I'm not, yeah, I am on the committee. Wait, I'm on this one.
you are.
Madam Chair. Director, did we determine if those can be reused and then we will reuse them, sell them, or what do you think the plan is?
They can be reused, and we will hopefully deconstruct them in a way that will allow them to be reused. However, the design on them, it kind of looks like it's like dirty almost, and so we were looking at how we clean them and without them breaking into a bunch of pieces. So we're still working through that. If they can be reused, we will endeavor to do so.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I looked into saving them, and it doesn't, I don't think it'll be feasible to save them. Get rid of them. And there was thought about putting them behind a rec center, but we just put them back there for 10 years and we throw them away. I talked to the engineer about washing them, and he said it just deteriorate, if you get a power washer on there, so.
Okay.
But that's not positive, that's some stuff that we've talked over, that's all.
Okay, thank you for that information. Any other questions from council? Okay. Seeing no further questions, I would like to favorably recommend Resolution 2025-45 to council and ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye, sorry.
Motion passes 3-0. Moving on to Resolution 2025-45, a resolution authorizing the Director of Economic and Community Development to advertise for bids for the award of a contract to provide construction services for the installation of traffic
Signalization.
Thank you. And pavement markings for the intersection of Walter and Lorraine Roads as detailed in the specifications on file with the Division of Engineering and following approval of the Board of Control to contract for the same with the lowest and best bidder. Again, Director Upton, would you like to lead the discussion on this?
Yes, Madam Chair, 2 points of clarification. One is 2025-48.
Oh, did I say the wrong one?
45, just for the record, and I also believe that I'm contractually obligated to say Motorola as well before I begin the discussion. We observed the construction traffic at Walter and Lorraine just being so much so and continuing that we believe it's in the best interest of the city to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the motoring public, that this light happens now as opposed to waiting years from now to happen. And so this legislation is required for us to make it happen.
I mean, I just drove down there today and they're doing a great job. Building that school, the construction's coming along really nice.
Yeah, it's really starting to
Yes.
look like it's cool.
Yes, yes. Any questions from committee? And any questions from council? Yes.
Is there, and this might not be, it might not be far enough, or it might be in the future, is there any plan to widen Walter Road? Or is it gonna remain as it is?
No plans to widen Lorraine or Walter Road. We went through an extensive amount of traffic analysis with the engineering firm, with the city and the schools, and we were able to facilitate all of the traffic with the existing infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I would like to favorably recommend Resolution 2025-48 to council and ask for a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 3-0. And the Streets and Transportation Committee meeting will now conclude at 7:48 p.m.
You ran those wrong. Roads are wrong.
Okay, I'd like to begin the Environmental Control Committee meeting at 7:48 p.m. Present are all members of council and committee members, along with the mayor, HR director, economic, safety, service, and recreation directors, special assistants of the mayor, and guests. On the agenda is 2025-49, which is a resolution approving the solid waste management plan as adopted by the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste Management District and declaring an emergency. Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just give a little bit of information, and then Director Carney and Special Assistant Massarello can also shed additional light onto this plan. Also for the record, I sit on the policy committee of the Solid Waste District by virtue of my appointment to the County Planning Commission. So the members of the County Planning Commission are also the policy committee of the Solid Waste District. This legislation has been ratified in our county since 1994. It is required by the EPA. So every couple of years, this year is that year, it needs to be ratified. So what happens is the solid waste district goes through their plan, they update it, and then they have to go out and they have to ask each city or village in the in Cuyahoga County to vote to approve this. They have to have county council approve this, and if not more than 60%, including Cleveland, of the communities, if they vote no instead of yes, then the EPA steps in and they write the plan and they force it. They force the county to comply. So this is one of those examples of like home rule, and we know our county knows better what we need, and our communities know what we need, and so that is why we want to go forward in this direction as opposed to having the EPA come in and tell us what to do. Cuyahoga County, the fee that's generated is $2 per ton. It was increased in 2023 by 50 cents. But that's only been the second increase since 1994. They are not asking for an increase for this plan, the plan that's before you. And this management plan is scheduled to go into effect in 2026 and will last until 2040. Along the way, there might be additional updates, but that is the structure of this plan.
Thank you. So the current rate is $2.50 a ton then?
It's $2 flat. It was $1.50 before 2023.
Okay.
And then it increased by 50 cents then, so now we are at $2 per ton.
Thank you.
I just had a few things. The mayor did, she must have read my homework because she said a lot of stuff I was gonna say. But Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District, they're a public agency that helps our county to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And they serve 59 communities in the city, in the county, within townships, villages, and suburbs. What's new, gonna be different in this plan is they're gonna enhance existing programs such as grants, litter collection, environmental crimes task force, and education outreach. Some of the potential new items are programs for hard to manage, materials, yard waste, and food composting. No fees increase. We have 90 days to ratify, last day being August 10th. This information provided. Each city, village, and township must vote 60%, must approve, including the county, which is the county, and the largest city of Cleveland. They both have to prove yes for it to work, for it to be ratified. If it's not ratified, the state tells us what we're gonna do, and then we have to live by what the state says.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I took some notes reading through it myself and was kind of surprised to see it indicated that 61% of the solid waste is being transported to Lorraine County's landfill, which has a 17-year life expectancy before it's at capacity. And it indicated that the average is 7 pounds of solid waste per person per day in Cuyahoga County, which seems like an awful lot to me, but I suppose there's some variables that sway that one way or the other. So, I have no questions. Any questions from committee?
Yes, I have one. Do we meet all the current plan requirements? I mean, are we gonna have anything we're gonna have to do, or are we in pretty
No.
good shape? Okay. Oh, we do not.
No, we don't. They're just gonna tell us, they enhance us, they don't give us more tasks. At least this one doesn't, this just gives us more opportunities.
Okay.
information.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. So, do we use Lorraine County? Is it just gonna be a capacity in 17 years, or where does our waste go? So a combination of different places?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilwoman, we use Republic Services, who they do dump at the Lorraine facility. Their facility, yes, is the Lorraine County one.
That's what I thought, okay.
You may not know the answer to this, I'm thinking nobody does, but are there any plans to repurpose any of Cuyahoga County's landfills? Like,
I don't know that answer. We could easily find out for you, for sure.
I don't need to know, I'm just curious, because once, Lorraine fills up, then you start to have to pay more because you have to take it, you have to transport it further, and, yeah. Because in Garfield Heights, they repurposed one, and it's a shopping mall, so, okay. Thank you.
No other questions? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to recommend to all of council 2025-49 and ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Murray. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes by a vote of 3-0. We conclude at 7:56.
I would like to call to order the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee at 7:58 PM. In attendance are committee members Shemsky, Heeman, and Madden, council members Limpert, Scarl, Gilchrist, and Murray, council president Broussard, Mayor Jones, all the directors, with the exception of law and finance, and the special assistant to the mayor and guests. We are here to discuss Resolution 2025-44, LifePak defibrillators, a resolution authorizing the mayor to purchase 4 LifePak 35 monitors and defibrillators from Stryker Sales LLC, along with all necessary accessories for each device at a cost of $180,772.10 under the emergency exception to public bidding, and further authorizing the mayor to execute all documents necessary to effectuate such a purchase and declaring an emergency. Mayor Jones, would you like Director Schofield to speak on this?
Director Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chairman. This is a request allowing us to go ahead and purchase the 4 LifePak 35s. We discussed this in the budget hearing. You may recall Captain Brian Schlapak, who was acting chief at the time, came and talked to some extent about what the LifePaks are. These are the cardiac monitors in the ambulances. They've not been upgraded in several years, speaking of a squad or a police car.
That was planned.
Yeah,
It's like a flyby. Nice.
I know how to run my department well. Right on the money.
That was good.
But, so this is just the purchase of what you approved in the budget. It even came in a few $1,000s under budget as it turned out. There's no need for suspension or anything of this.
So, if I recall, the old ones we're getting a credit for.
Correct. We will turn those in, as soon as we get the new ones, we'll turn those in for a credit against the purchase.
And the life expectancy of these units.
5+ years.
Any questions from committee?
Not a question, a comment. I have seen the demonstrations of these things, and they're really amazing.
Yeah.
They actually do the CPR. The unit does the CPR, which really then leaves our employees, our firefighters and paramedics, free to really take care of other things that patient needs, that they need to focus on for the transport of the patient. Right? Pretty impressive.
I never knew one.
Yes, ma'am.
Does this include a warranty? I imagine that they come with some kind of a warranty on the product?
Yes, you'll these four have a 1-year warranty. You'll have, before you, for the next council meeting, legislation for the general annual, maintenance contract that we have with Stryker that comes before you every year for the rest of the equipment. But these four do have a 1-year warranty.
Any questions from the rest of council? Seeing none, I move to favorably recommend resolution 2025-44 and ask for a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes 3-0, and the Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee adjourns at 8:02